guys, thank you for joining me. So today's video is gonna be about red flags when it comes to dating. So this is just specifically dating, like if you're just dating someone, you're just getting started, really what to watch out for before you commit in a relationship, okay? But you can of course take some of this advice in your own relationship as well. But before this begins, I would really kindly ask you to subscribe and tap the bell and hit all notifications. Thank you so much. That helps go a long way. And also, can I ask you to book a service today? 30-minute booking helps fund and support this YouTube channel for a day. 1 hour-long booking helps fund and support this YouTube channel for 2 days. So I really do appreciate your help, love, and support at this time. I really thank you guys so much. Alright, let's get to the nitty gritty. I got links below to TonyBomboni.com. Make sure you guys check out my Spotify, Apple Music. I'm constantly having new EPs and ASMR albums out there. You can listen to them outside of this platform. And my online courses. I have 2 tarot reading online course and how to run a successful YouTube channel online course. Alright, so. Alright, let us begin. So, I can only share these messages based on my own personal experience in dating. And I've dated on and off for probably 12 years. So I think I have enough experience to make this video. So there's a lot, and I've also been in committed relationships, of course. There were like 3 major committed, more long-term relationships I've been in my life. So, yeah, I'm not just like pulling stuff out of my bum and like, obviously, I've gotten to that stage with people, where it was more serious. Like, I wouldn't necessarily take advice from someone who hasn't necessarily yet, because yeah, they may know green flags and red flags, but like the goal of dating is to be in a relationship, is it not? Unless you just like to date for fun, because there's a difference. There's different kinds of people who want to or prefer to stay alone for the rest of their years, people who want to fall in love and have kids and all that. And there's people who just want to be with multiple people. Okay, there's 3 kind of people. So, I've been all of those people at once, at the same time. Like, yeah, it can happen, so it just depends where you're at. But anyway, we can start off with the first red flag to look out for. And if you like this video, I can make one about green flags. Why not? But I think this will be a lengthy enough subject. So one red flag is if someone only asks to hang out during the day or only asks to hang out during the evening, because that usually indicates that the person is already partnered and they're like hiding, they're either closeted or they are trying to hide from their partner or their family and friends, especially if it is the same gender you're into, and all of a sudden you find out they have a wife of 5 years, there's a red flag, and a huge one. You should know when you always meet up. If it's always during the day and never at night, something's off. If it's always during the night, never during the day, something's off. If it's both, then you should be, I'm not saying you're good, but you should be good for the most part, okay? So red flag number 1, if it's only a certain time of day. Yeah. Okay. Red flag number 2. If someone, especially if you're on a dating app, and they're only sending you pictures with their eyes covered, like they're wearing sunglasses and a hat, it's never like, or it's a distant picture, you can't really see their face up close, that's a red flag. That's probably not the person you're talking to. You're probably getting catfished. Always, always, always screen grab the picture that the person sends you and go to google.com/images. Click on the camera icon in the search bar. Paste the image you screen grabbed into that icon and crop it so that only the image shows. And see if there is a similar image online, and if the names don't match, the profiles don't match, and always contact the person too that the legitimate profile's on and tell them that someone is using your picture, or ask them, is this actually you? Because very rarely, but it can happen that someone has multiple profiles, but that in itself is a red flag. So yeah, but block, report, delete, if you do find out they're using someone else's image. Okay, stay safe out there, guys, because there's dangerous people out there. Okay, so that's red flag number 2. Always hiding the eyes, or especially if you ask for an up-close face picture and they never send it to you. Red flag, okay? Especially if they're like a celebrity or something. Like, most likely you're not going to meet a celebrity in your life, okay? So yeah, unless you go to their concert, you're probably not talking to Beyonce, let's put it that way. Okay, so we can go ahead with red flag number 3. And I hate to say this, but if the person has an addiction problem, okay, because I've been there before too. I've dated people with struggles. I myself have had those struggles too. Yeah, just keep in mind, it's not meaning that you can't fall in love with them or make it work. It just means you might be more prone to getting hurt because the person is relying on something for their happiness. And if they can't be happy with you without that thing, that can be a problem, Now, if they are clean for like a year, 2 years, 5 years, fine. That's up to you as a full-grown adult to decide and make decisions for your own self. But look, in my experience personally, it's never ended well. It's always ended in some, even if it's just like an addiction to, or anything. It's not like smoking or drinking. Like, that's it. Like, none of those has ever worked out for me personally. I think I've just noticed that people get really agitated without those things, and they're not necessarily have been the nicest people to be around necessarily. So that's just my experience and my personal opinion. Now, if you're on your healing journey and you really mean it, and you're telling your significant other that you're working on it and quitting, and you're actively working on it, that's another story. Or if you really just like a good drink once in a while and it doesn't bother you, you like a good old cigar once in a while, it doesn't bother you, like, that's different, obviously. But if it's only a red flag if it causes your partner pain, okay? That's what I'm saying. So just keep it in the back of your head. If this person has a substance problem, that might be something to consider. I'm not saying 100% of the time it's a red flag, okay? I just want to be very clear. There's a lot of different variations, but the next red flag is if they're always forgetting their wallet, their purse. Oh my gosh. And you always have to end up paying for the dinner. It's never like, they're using you. Okay, I'm sorry, but it's true. Or they're using you for vacations, for trips. Like, there's, expecting you to buy lavish gifts for them or nice expensive meal, unless it's like a, sugar baby, sugar daddy kind of relationship, and it's already agreed that's what's going to be. It's going to be a transactional relationship. Then it's a red flag, okay? If it's not agreed or consented to be that way, then it's a red flag where, oh, I forgot my wallet. Like, really? Yeah, right. LOL. Okay. That's happened a couple times, and it's just, yeah, why should you always be the one paying, especially if they're older than you? It's like, what the hell? But anyway, so, or like they're just being very cheap and they never really like want to hang out when food is involved. Like all of a sudden, like when let me be real, if your man or your woman can't feed you, that's not marriage material, right? You gotta feed, clothe them, and shelter them before you get in bed with them. You know what I'm saying? Like you just, yeah, that's like, treat them right, treat them like a human being, If it's really problematic while dating for them to buy you a dinner, imagine long-term marriage. Oh God, you know what? Are you always going to be buying the groceries? It doesn't matter who makes more money. Once in a while, the one who makes less has to pitch in. And that's red flag number whatever, 4 or 5, I don't remember at this point, is I've learned you kind of have to be on similar levels financially, maybe even socially, and like it usually just tends to work out better that way, because it always ends up one person contributes to the relationship more than the other, and that's the sad truth about love. It's very transactional, right? Because money is involved in freaking everything. You go outside and you spend $500. You can't breathe without spending $500 today. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so I understand we all live in different worlds, but like, if you live on the farm and you live off the land, you're probably gonna find someone else who lives off the land too. That makes more sense socioeconomically than, dating a city boy or girl and who makes 5 times what you make. Like it just realistically, they're not gonna come live on the farm if they love the city. So just consider, like, overall anything that is too different from you, opposites attract, yeah, but in terms of personality and chemistry, not necessarily realistic, tangible things, right? If a person lives in a castle and they date a guy that's in poverty, that's like, again, sugar relationship. That's always going to be looked at that way. They're always going to be paying for their meal. Like, it's just what it is, So, like I said, that's just something to consider, okay? Or vice versa, all right? Be realistic about who you expect to meet, I'm not afraid to or ashamed to share this, but I've dated millionaires, literally. So, like, multiple people, like, I know what that's like. So it's not ever working out because it's literally transactional. I'm not a millionaire, so how could that work, Yes, love exists, but it's just like there's always the same page, like, you notice a lot of celebrities end up being with billionaires. Like, that's because they're on a certain similar page, with the money and stuff. So they don't need a person that has $10 million is not going to ask a billionaire for money. Like, so yeah, I'm just being honest. So just be realistic with where you're at in life and try to match someone who's on the same page. That way you can kind of get along with that person and just understand each other, because someone who's in a business or a game for a long period of time is not going to understand or connect with someone who isn't in that same game or industry. Or yeah, exactly. So it just makes it a whole lot harder. And this is where the next red flag is: age difference. So I'm never against age difference. I don't care if you're 20 with a 65-year-old. It doesn't matter. Like I said, I've been with multiple people in my life who are much older than me, much older. And the only problem with that is the similarities, the just the difference in the time period. You don't understand their generation. They don't understand yours, your slang, your terminology, how you view life, what movies you watch or music you listen to. It's just very hard to get along long term with someone that you just can't relate to. There's a lack of conversation, a lack of communication. And that's where my next red flag is. So just keep in mind age difference. I would say at this point, 10 years, 15 years tops, okay? Keep that in mind, okay? 10 to 15 years, even that's a stretch, but, there can be a lot of differences between people, and yeah, people say age is just a number, but when you're 19 versus versus a 57-year-old. That could be a child and a grandfather in difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, so just keep in mind the differences there. Okay? Because eventually that 57-year-old may want to be with someone their age. That 19-year-old is too young to know what to do in life and may want to be with their own kind. Just saying. Okay, so next is communication. Next up is communication. So communication is very important. If the person is not communicating and expressing their thoughts and feelings with you, it's not going to work, baby. Okay? This person, if they're not honest and upfront with you, if they're texting you even like at the beginning of dating, they're just like, okay, smiley face. Like, that's not much to really feed back on or reply to. In fact, they may not even be that interested in you, or they're probably the person talking to 20 people at the same time. So just keep in mind, if they're not engaging with you, they're not interested, period, point blank, period. I don't care what you say, really. Okay, honestly and truthfully, they are not interested. They may have a slight interest, but if they are not actively engaging with you and genuinely interested in getting to know you, that's not a connection, and that's not something that can be healthy long-term or work out. Okay? Next red flag, and I'm sorry to say this, in my experience at least, if they are too attractive, yes, believe it or not, if they're too beautiful, if they're almost like too good to be true, that's a red flag in and of itself. Because especially if they're on a dating app, they're probably talking to 300 people, literally, or 300 people are trying to talk to them. But the only time it's a red flag, especially like I said, if they're not engaging with you, that's just like, they're just, yeah. Sometimes again, they just take like a model's picture, their Instagram, and put it on their page. It's most likely too good to be true. Okay? Not everyone's like that, but I found a lot of people like that are very, very like shallow, superficial, narcissistic, like those kind of people. Always like gym pictures or workout pictures, or just like always showing their body and stuff like that. Too good looking, too good to be true type of energy. And especially if they're already 30 and up, I'm like, there's a reason they're still single. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, there's something there that they're not really taking seriously. It's always usually ends up in a quickie or one night or something, at least in my experience. It just always was like something very superficial and shallow, and not like a genuine connection. It was just very shallow, very much shallow. And it makes me sad, because like the beautiful people, a lot of times they're not always, but a lot of times they're not, are always the most broken inside and need healing. So yeah, the ones who just even like, they always have to have the right, it's just like, it's too much, it's just like too much high maintenance, too many standards, yeah. So red flag. Okay. Sometimes you gotta date someone a little, even like I find that it works the most, a little below your standards, right? Just a tad bit below what you expect. That sounds horrible, but like, if you want just anyone, just to start dating anyone, don't reach for the stars right away. You'll be very gravely disappointed, okay? Now, if you are gorgeous and handsome and all beautiful and all the above, like they are, it might work actually, because yeah, a lot of times, again, I emphasize a lot of times, not always, there's beautiful people are with beautiful people, and average looking, I know that sounds superficial, I don't mean it that way, but I have found personally, like, look at couples when you walk around the mall, exactly, unless they're Balkan, literally, unless you're Eastern European, honey, it's always the Bratz doll with Shrek. I'm telling you, I'm Eastern European, I can tell you from experience, it's always Bratz doll beauty with a Shrek male, literally every time, without fail. It's the funniest freaking thing ever. That's the only exception, but for the most part, there's even a meme about that, but for the most part, yeah, just be realistic. There are people, now there was a story about like, there's actually a couple stories of YouTubers or something, I don't know who they post on TikTok or something. There's this like, this girl who's, well, she's, plus size, and with a husband that's muscular and handsome and attractive, and it's like they love each other, and there's exceptions there. Sometimes people like plus size people. I always prefer a little extra too. I don't like someone too good looking. It's kind of like, it's too distracting, it's too off-putting for me personally. But it's just different shapes and sizes and beauty. So like, just go with what you like, right? That's important. But the person's heart, it matters. It doesn't matter if someone is even horrible looking. It's their heart, it's their personality you fall in love with. It's not their looks, right? Looks help, but it's like, if you can put that aside, that's what really counts. Okay, so and especially think vice versa. Are they just with you for your beauty? Think about that. Okay. So what else? There's another red flag. If they're too far away, if they're too long distance, and that you barely ever see them. Look, I've done a lot of tarot readings, let me tell you. Long distance usually tends not to work out. Okay, even again, in my experience, I've had long distance connections or relationships, and they just typically tend to wither away like a dead flower, because they don't get nurtured, and the people get lonely, and someone cheats on someone, and there's even cheating, and you never find out they were cheating because they're long distance. How the hell are you gonna know if you're in Rhode Island and they're in California? I mean, good luck finding out. Okay, what are you gonna hire, a catfish? What? Anyway, so I mean, what was that show called? Not Catfish. Oh my god. Whatever. Anyway. But so basically, yeah, just consider, unless you really want long distance and it works for you, it's not gonna work. Both parties have to want it, okay? If both parties are not in agreement or alignment, that's a red flag for anything, okay? Alright, so another red flag to consider, unfortunately, is someone is ill or dying, right? I think people fall in love with people who are ill and dying a lot because it's beautiful, it's romantic, it's like life is so short, it's like you cherish the moment with them more. Or someone that's ill or dying on their deathbed is saying to the person that they always loved them, and then they fall in love, but then they die. It's like, you're not ready for the pain though of that. You're not ready to handle that. There's even movie after movie on this subject, and you have to make sure this is what you want. First of all, if you really love each other, make a will too, okay? Please make a will. Don't forget, I think everyone should make a will, regardless if you're healthy, because nothing is guaranteed, But just be mindful to be prepared mentally for the pain or their passing, because that's not something people prepare, and they get horribly depressed. So yeah, that's just a red flag to consider. If you can be with someone because they are very terminally ill or about to pass. So that's a sensitive, touchy subject, but yeah, just something realistically to consider, okay? Or if, God forbid, they're like handicapped or in a wheelchair or something, like, honestly, there was a guy I was talking to, like, very briefly, who was handicapped. He was very good looking, but he was in a chair, and I kind of was like, hey, let me give this a try, but it never went anywhere. We never met, but I was like, oh, like, this, it could have been something. But then I realized later, I was like, I was not ready for the pain of that, because I didn't know his situation. I didn't know how bad he had it, and the handicap, the debilitating nature of a situation. And I don't know if I was truly ready to. There's even a YouTube couple, I think, that I don't know their names, but I always see them in the recommended, and people like mock her and say like, oh, you're not actually in love with him, you're just with him for the money, blah 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 blah, the disability check or whatever. It just, I wish people would just stop saying that. That's so mean. But yeah, but be sure you're ready for that. Be sure you're ready for even someone for someone to say that to your face, like, oh, you're just with them because the money, like, oh my gosh. Or the YouTube click, right? Please. I think there's better ways to get attention than that. I wish people would stop being so nasty to YouTubers, But anyway, so that's another one to consider. even though it's a really sensitive subject for a lot of people. So I hope I said it in the right way, or came across the right way, and I'm not misunderstood. Or a lot of times people want to take me out of context and twist my words, and I'm not having that. Okay, I would never say something mean about that. Okay, so next red flag. If they always want to get in the bed, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I purposely sometimes, when I was dating people, I was like, purposely and intentionally not give it to them so quick or be so easy or soon to give it, because I want to see, are you actually with me for that? Notice their mood shift too. Notice if they all of a sudden are like only happy when they get it, or they're like kind of forcing you almost, or pushing you too much to do something you don't want to do, or makes you uncomfortable, because sometimes you're just not in the mood, and that's okay. But also another red flag could be if they're never giving it to you. It's been 2-3 months and they just are not, unless, like I said, you just agree not to until marriage. That's another story. But whatever's mutually agreed upon, communicate that. That's, I think, one of the most uncomfortable things to communicate with a person is the need for that. The need for intimacy, the need for even a cuddle or a kiss or a hug. So, yeah, if they're like cold turkey with you, that's not a good sign. That they could be sleeping with someone else, or they could just be going through just something where they're just different, and maybe that's not for you, but you have to accept that and come to terms with that. Some people have a low drive, some people have a high drive. It's just, you have to figure out what makes you happy and what works for you long term, and be realistic about it. But also, if that doesn't work out, there's other things that could work out. So just try to see pros and cons. No one's going to be perfect and match your needs perfectly. So, another red flag is if they never want to hang out, like they're always making excuses. That's a lack of interest, or they're just confused. They don't know what they want with you. Another red flag is, if they are constantly away for a few days at a time, or they're away on trips or travel or something, there's probably someone else in the picture. Another red flag would be that honestly, a lot of times it could be like they're putting their phone down, facing down when talking to you, or they have like 2 phones, unless it's for business, but that also is something to keep in mind. Like, why they never give you the second number, Another red flag is when they are very brief or don't explain very well why their past relationships didn't work out, or they don't want to communicate or talk about it that much. Because again, if someone's 35, 40, 45 and it still hasn't worked out for them, it doesn't mean it's a red flag. It just means it could be a red flag to you. So just ask them, hey, why didn't it work out so long? Or what went wrong the last few times? Another red flag is being financially irresponsible. Unfortunately, if they're a big spender or just have no money coming in, that could be very taxing on you in a marriage, okay? So just keep in mind their stability. If they're educated, if that's what you want, if they are having stable work, not in and out of jobs, if that's what you want. Like I said, we don't all want that, so whatever you want, if it's not that, red flag, okay? Pretty straightforward. And honestly, this might sound funny, but this happened to me too. If they always smell unshowered, that's a lot of times depression, or they're sleeping a lot, they're spending a lot of time sleeping, that's another thing to consider. It's very hard to be with someone who's very depressed chronically, constantly, because, that just, they don't have the time or energy to really nurture that relationship in the right way. Now, if you want someone who is there only part-time, then that's fair. Again, I have to be very sensitive with my words, but there's a lot of red flags, so yeah, there's just a lot. So just keep in mind, like, those things, I mean, a lot of these things has happened to me before. That's why I say, like, it's something to consider, you know, or they make excuses always for why they may, you know, like, I mean, like, it's not always the work, honey, you know, it's like they just said, probably haven't showered, you know, they just, a lot of times I've had depressed friends, depressed date, like, I know what it's like. I've been there. There was like one period in my life I couldn't for like 3 or 4 days even get in the shower. I was just so lowly. I couldn't sleep. Like, I was just laying there. I was just so upset. And yeah, of course, I obviously began to smell. So it's nothing to laugh at, mock, or humiliate. It can happen to any of us, you know. And it's just something to consider. Sometimes some people are just not ready for a relationship. And that's another red flag, is when constantly someone's reminding you that they don't want a relationship. Don't push them. You'll get very badly hurt. Because they mean it. One powerful lesson, word of wisdom I learned early on, is pay attention to someone's words when they first tell you something. Because they mean it. So, yeah, don't be with someone that says that even just once. Back away. Walk away. Save yourself, because you will be gravely disappointed. Okay? Alright, eventually, if they open up and say they want, yes, but don't keep investing in the person that says that. They clearly are setting a boundary with you, and that's another thing, is like respecting their wishes and their boundaries. They have limits. You have limits. We all do. Whether we like it or not, this world is full of borders. So, respect it, otherwise it means war. Okay? Alright, so another red flag is if you are off on your own and stable and make a living for yourself and all that good stuff, but your partner is still living with their parents and their family. That may be detrimental to some people, because unless you move in together, that may be a detriment, because now you're picking them up at their mom's house. You know, it's just like, you know, the inconvenience. It's just, yeah, especially if they don't have their own transportation or independence or way of getting around, or their own money. Like I said, there's so many factors. You know, it's not just a red flag because they live with their family, but it says a lot about them. If they're still, like I said, 35, 40, 45, living at home, there's something there, unless it's a culture thing. Because in my culture in Macedonia, like, people, honestly, what they do is they have one big house. They always have the biggest houses, and they literally have like an upstairs for like the oldest family or something, or downstairs, whatever. The middle section, whatever, will be like our one unit of the house. If it's not 3 or 2 floors, one quadrant of the home will be like their living, and then the couple will live there and their children will live in another section. Like, it's just kind of what we do. And so it's typical for people in their 40s to live with their parents still. To this very day, actually, I still have family doing that, and, you know, they inherit the home and pass it on to their offspring too. So, you know, I mean, luxury is not a thing in Macedonia, so clearly that's the way people do it, and that works, you know, and they kind of introduce and bring that into the United States and other countries as well, and continue that process of evolution in that manner as well. So there's an exception with cultural differences, I emphasize clearly, but you have to be willing to respect their culture, right? So if, like I said, or maybe you're 57 and they're 19, obviously the 19 is still going to be with their parents more than likely. So you kind of have to respect that they still have to be with their family. So, you know, you can't just expect to whip them out of home, you know, and for the parents to trust you, first of all. That might be a little weird for the parents too. So I would say that another red flag would be how messy the person is, especially if they're hoarding a lot of things. They never clean after themselves. Look at their car and look at their home. First, look at their car, how they take care of their cars, how they take care of their life. Their car will probably emulate their house or their closets, right? So just keep in mind that's probably how they're going to treat the home that you guys live in together one day. So just keep in mind, if mess doesn't bother you, fine. But if it does, red flag. Alright, guys. Basically, also mental health. If they have any mental health diagnoses, they better, within the first few months of getting to know each other, be upfront with that, or any illness or disease, like I said, or they're taking some medication or something for that, they better let you know. That's one thing that pissed me off so much, is someone in my past who didn't let me know, and I found out later, and they could have put my health at risk and my well-being. So that's something that you need to know, okay? You need to be aware for. All right? There's a lot of people, can switch or have issues where, even the medication doesn't work, and all of a sudden it's a problem, or they just lose it or something. I understand, because I myself suffer sometimes to this day with certain issues, and I've seen people, there's just people in my life that I know what it's like. So be ready for that, be ready to love them through that and work with them on that. And you have to know them, obviously. So it's like, if they don't tell you and all of a sudden they just switch on you one day, you're like, whoa, what just happened? That's not a healthy relationship. They have to communicate that with you, even if they're too ashamed to admit it, okay? And vice versa, if you're in that boat and you have to tell someone, please do. You don't have to the first day, my goodness, but, eventually get there and tell them before committing, because that's serious, that's something, one of the big things that someone needs to know. And trust is another red flag. If they are cheating, lying, stealing from you, you notice things missing in your house, or money is missing from your pocket or your wallet or something, or they're just like, a lot of times, just on their phone a lot too. That's what I don't understand, is like, how could someone be on their phone all day? Like, especially when you're in a dinner date or doing a special occasion, or, and then they whip out the phone, and it just kind of kills the vibe. It kills the moment, really. And it's not really being present for the person you're with. And so, that's another thing there. So, yeah. Someone reliable, if they're not reliable as well, right? If you can't count on them, if they don't keep their promises, that's very hard to work with and commit to someone in the future with. So just keep these things in the back of your mind, and understand that everyone's different, but you can work through differences. And if you both have a willingness to make things work no matter what happens, that's, like, if you can't do that, is what I'm trying to say, that's a red flag, right? So I thank you for watching. I think that's really more than enough for today. I addressed maybe most of the major ones out of the way, but yes, you definitely want someone that loves you and takes care of their health and well-being, even if they're not in perfect, pristine condition. At least that they're trying, at least that they're willing to make things work out, and that they, are introducing some sense of happiness in your life. So yeah, I can get into the green flags in another video if you want, but I thank you for joining me today. I hope this helped you in pinpointing what it is you're looking for in dating. Some of them are pretty obvious, but some of them are not so upfront and obvious, and maybe I made something obvious today that wasn't before, and it could be helpful in